So I saw some movies here recently, and let's just talk about them. One of them I saw on Netflix was The Trip. Not the films with Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon that I really love, but a Norwegian film starring Noomi, Rapace, and Aksel Hennie. This is one my wife found out about and we watched it together on one of our Friday night movie nights at the house, and I went in knowing nothing about this one, and that's probably what I would recommend you do as well. All you need to know that the film is about a husband and wife going out to a cabin, and that's pretty much it. The film does such a great job at presenting new ideas, and it builds really well along the way to create a really fun and engaging film. The film is pretty well shot with some great effects. I mean, if there's any CGI in this film, you really can't tell. But it's one of those films that balances both humor and these like really dark, tense moments incredibly well. I mean, it balances back and forth between these different tones expertly. It's a very well crafted film that's very well written, and I wish I could talk more about this, but I'd seriously recommend going into this one with no info. Do not watch the trailer because it will spoil the bejeebus out of this movie. I will say though that it's one of those films that I'm not quite sure would hold up as well on a second viewing when you know everything that's going on, because the strongest aspect of the film is keeping you at the edge of your seat, making you guess what will happen next. So my rating could change on a second viewing, but I definitely want to give this one another watch. Another film I recently watched was Slaxx. This is another one my wife heard about and told me that it's basically rubber but with a pair of jeans, and when we saw it on DVD at Walmart, we decided to go ahead and grab it. Honestly, at this point, I might just sign up for Shudder because they've been putting out a lot of cool stuff, and unfortunately it seems like most of their releases are DVD only, which I believe Slaxx is at this point. Regardless, the film is a ton of fun, and a lot more comedy horror driven than Rubber was. The film follows Libby as she starts her new job at this fancy popular clothing store the night they're planning to reveal these new style of jeans, which the jeans end up being alive, and all the fun ensues. At a brisk 77 minutes, this film just flies by, and it doesn't take very long to get going either. It just, once the jeans kind of start doing their thing, the film just whoop right by. And according to the behind the scenes, all the jeans were done completely practical, which is awesome. Honestly, it looks like there might be some kind of blending going on because there is moments that feels CGI, but if it's not, it's cool nonetheless. This is just a goofy, fun, violent flick that has a lot of replayability. Sure, it's not perfect, it's full of dumb characters with little to no development for them, but when they're there just to be cannon fodder, what does it really matter? This is just a fun flick that I think if you think it seems interesting to you, you'd probably enjoy it, but if you think it looks dumb, it might not be for you, but I would recommend it. At least give it a shot. I finally got around to watching Fried Berry despite Amazon's chagrin. Seriously hate Amazon when it comes to pre-orders. My theory is they oversell their pre-orders, which is why it seems like every time I pre-order something, it takes weeks after release date to finally receive it. Anyway, Fried Berry is a lot of fun. The film follows Barry, a drug addict, after being abducted by aliens. The alien takes over his body and returns to Earth, and we follow around Alien Barry as he partakes in the finer things in life, such as heavy drug abuse, sex, and all kinds of weird things. This is one of those super high energy films in the same vein as Crank in both ways. While Fried Berry isn't as action-packed as Crank is, it's a pretty good comparison for the level of energy you'll get with this one. First off, the editing in this film is great. There's a lot of effects and stylistic choice that build energy that comes pretty much just from the editing aspect. In terms of editing, it might be some of the best of the year. Visually, the film looks awesome as well. It falls into that color palette of hypersaturation that I really love, but it also uses a lot of great angles and wide lenses to help build that high-strung atmosphere. The effects all look pretty decent, some better than others, but they all fit within the style of the film as to not be distracting when it looks worse than other moments. Gary Green as Barry is amazing. He has very little dialogue in this film, but he can pull off some of the best facial expressions I've ever seen in a film. And honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing him in something else that's not quite like this, something that's maybe a little bit more dramatic just to see what he's got. He feels like a good presence in a film, especially this one. The film though is basically broken up into two parts with a micro intermission in between. For me personally, I found the first half to be way more enjoyable as he just wanders about doing crazy things, while the second half is a little bit more plot driven. I personally wasn't a big fan of the torturer scene as it just felt out of place compared to the rest of the film, and it felt really slow. The mental hospital, while it's fun, it has some good moments in there, it also kind of feels like you're trudging through sand comparatively to the rest of the film. I mean, I did enjoy the second half, but I went in thinking, wow, this might be my new number one of the year with the first half. Bouncing out of the second half, I was thinking, well, probably not my number one. I definitely want to give this one a rewatch. Maybe my score will go up or down. Who knows? But yeah, kind of a fun little group of movies.